Qin put his hand on Lu Sheng's shoulder and thought it wasn't bad. Feeling his hand, Lu Sheng couldn't help but be startled and feel chills. While Qin had one hand on his shoulder, he placed the other on the table, grabbed the wine glass, and as he was getting more drunk, closed his eyes and asked him if he had sweated a lot. Lu Sheng turned his head towards him, started looking at him with a confused look and couldn't help but start wondering what he was talking about. Qin brought the wine glass to his mouth, took a sip and explained that if he wanted to flirt with Snowy, then he definitely had to pass her brother's tests. Although the path was difficult, he was young and had to work hard. Lu Sheng took the wine glass with both hands, rested his elbows on the tavern table, started looking down and with a lost look remained deep in thought. He took the wine glass, began bringing it closer to his mouth, and while starting to blush, asked Qin who had told him that he wanted to flirt with Snowy. Qin turned to him and with a confused look asked if he was still playing dumb and also why a grown man like him was hiding this. Lu Sheng didn't even respond. Noticing this, Qin approached him, clinked his wine glass with his, closed one eye and with a calm look revealed that Snowy no longer hid it from him. Lu Sheng couldn't help but be shocked. With a surprised look he began to wonder if this was true. Instead of toasting, he forcefully placed the wine glass on the table, causing some wine to spill on it. He turned towards Qin and with a serious look asked if Snowy had confessed anything to him. Qin put both hands under his mouth, started looking at the ceiling, and seeing that Lu Sheng had gotten emotional, he told him that he had given himself away. After saying this, he began to say that he already knew what was happening. Lu Sheng couldn't help but start blushing. He began looking to one side and remained silent. Qin stood up, got behind him, put both hands on his shoulders, and with a suggestive look told him that his skill in martial arts was really strong. But in the aspect of love he was still a novice, and for this reason he could see through him with just one look. Lu Sheng was shocked as he didn't know what Qin was talking about. He turned his head back with a serious look and admitted that he was right and also asked him about what Snowy had confessed to him. Qin started smiling like crazy and asked him if he would like her to confess. He stepped aside, put one hand on the tavern, began to sit down on the chair, extended the other towards him and with a cheerful smile decided to stop bothering Lu Sheng and revealed that she was interested in him. He started pointing at him with his finger and told him that there was something important he needed to know. Upon hearing this, Lu Sheng couldn't help but start looking at him with a perplexed look and began to question what this important thing he needed to know was. While he was pointing at Lu Sheng with his finger, with a calm look, he revealed that the last time she had invited him to eat, it was because she wanted to declare her love. But in the end, he had stood her up. Knowing this, Lu Sheng's heart started beating faster, making him turn red like a tomato. With a loving look, he finally realized that Snowy also felt something for him. Qin took the bottle of wine, started to pour a little into the glass and asked him not to worry since he knew Snowy very well. Once she decided something, it was difficult for her to change her mind, so this was not going to be a problem for her. After pouring a little wine into the glass, Qin, who had one hand resting on the table, placed the glass in front of Lu Sheng with the other hand, closed his eyes and reminded him again that as he had said before, mainly the problem were her two brothers. Lu Sheng began to look at the glass of wine and remained silent. At that moment, someone opened the bar door and began talking about Snowy's brother. Lu Sheng and Qin turned their heads back and saw two men entering the bar. The blue-haired man explained to his friend that Dong Shengyi was too strong. He had just arrived at the Eastern Military District and on his first day had already consecutively defeated the number 1 and 2 in the military star ranking called Sun Hengyu and Jai Zeng. The bald man clenched both fists and with a smile explained that now that number 1 and 2 had been defeated, no one knew who else could be his opponent. The two men passed by them, and the blue-haired man started looking to one side and remembered that it was said this time Dong Shengyi had come out with the intention of breaking through the 4 military districts to prove that his martial path was invincible. It was his path to sanctity. The bald man began to look at him with an uncertain gaze and explained that being a martial saint was an exaggeration. There were countless experts in the military districts and surely someone could stop him. Qin began to stare at the men and did not react upon seeing that Dong Shengyi had already started acting. With the Great Eastern competition approaching, it was quite arrogant of him to come and challenge at this moment. Lu Sheng began to look at Qin and did not interrupt. He took the wine glass, brought it close to his mouth, started drinking, and thought that the reputation of a martial saint was very useful. He knew that the military district couldn't do much against him either. After drinking some wine, he left the glass on the table, and drool started to fall from his mouth. He put his hand under his mouth and with a hungry look advised Lu Sheng to be careful since Dong Shengyi had already said that he wanted to make his way through the east, and if he continued by ranking, Soon it would be Lu Sheng's turn. Moreover, with his relationship with Snowy, for sure he was going to receive special attention. Lu Sheng began to look at him with a surprised look and started thinking. He put his hand under his chin, looked away, and with an uncertain look asked Qin what the relationship between Snowy and Dong Shengyi was like. Qin put one hand on his hip, started touching his head with the other, and asked him what he meant by this. He didn't know if he wanted Snowy to speak well of him so that Dong Shengyi would overlook him. While a drop of sweat was falling from his cheek, he began to force a smile, and responded with a "of course not." Qin began to imagine Dong Shengyi flying and several warriors ready to fight against him. He was thinking that he had come this time to the military district because he wanted to take the opportunity to challenge the strongest warriors and cultivate his invincible will of invincibility in martial arts. This was something very important for him if he wanted to become the martial saint in the future. Lu Sheng closed his eyes, put his hand under his chin, and realized that he was Snowy's older brother, so it could be said that he was like his brother-in-law. Qin became somewhat confused. He started looking at Lu Sheng with a puzzled look and asked what he was talking about and what he was planning to do. Lu Sheng began to imagine himself defeating Dong Shengyi and making him kneel before him. If he encountered him, he would surely defeat him. If he faced him, before he could establish his aura of invincibility, he would crumble in spirit, and naturally his opportunity in martial arts would be scarce. He began to imagine himself facing him. According to Dong Shengyi, surely saw him as a mortal enemy, and Snowy, who was trapped between Dong Shengyi and him, was going to have it difficult. He put his hand under his chin, closed his eyes, and with a calm voice decided in the future also to defeat Dong Potion. Even if he defeated her two brothers, it couldn't be ruled out that their relationship would become more tense. Qin was left speechless and began to sweat. Lu Sheng crossed his arms and said that this was very difficult for him. Qin stood up, and with a confused look started to observe him. He got behind him, put his hand under his chin, and began to stare at him intently. Feeling his gaze, Lu Sheng couldn't help but panic and start sweating since he didn't know what was happening. A while later, Qin put his hand over his mouth and started blushing. He sat next to Lu Sheng, put an arm around his shoulder, began pulling out the other's thumb, closed his eyes, and with a cheerful smile decided to give up because if they were talking about showing off, then Lu Sheng was the best. Lu Sheng was somewhat confused as he did not know why Qin was saying this. Meanwhile, on the other side of the military district, a great explosion occurred. A man who was wearing blue clothes started to clean the dust off his shoulder using his hand and thought that they were very weak. He was standing, and around him there were a lot of warriors lying on the ground. The man could not believe that this really was their power. The warriors, who still had some strength left, began to stand up with the help of their swords, thinking that he was very strong. He was Dong Shengyi. While his body was surrounded by a powerful green energy, he started staring at the warriors. They stood up, and seeing that even the top 10 military stars had not been able to face him, they began to wonder what they were going to do now. He started getting bored of these fights, turned his back on them, and began walking towards Snowy and waved at her. Snowy, who was standing behind, started looking at him with a calm gaze and waved back. At that moment, someone raised their hand and caught her attention. Dong Shengyi crossed his arms, and at that moment, a woman came out from behind him, put one hand on her waist, started waving to her with the other, and with a smile explained that elder brother Dong had been hiding his edge for 20 years, and this time he was going to surprise all of China. Snowy, who had her arms crossed, recognized the woman as Lin Wanwen. She was somewhat surprised to see that she had also come, and it didn't take long for her to realize that if she had come to the military district with her brother, it must be for an important matter. Lin Wanwen approached her, hugged her arm, and with a smile responded with a yes. Snowy was somewhat surprised as she did not know what was happening. While Dong Shengyi had his arms crossed and was silent, Lin Wanwen put her hand near her mouth, started to look into her eyes, and explained that she was working on research about exotic beast genes. She needed many specimens for her experiments, so for this reason they had come with him. Snowy began to look at her with a calm gaze and remained silently listening. Lin Wanwen approached her ear and explained that she needed her help, since originally she wanted to recruit some people from the Eastern Military District. But Dong Shengyi had already taken care of everyone. Upon hearing this, Snowy was somewhat surprised. Dong Shengyi, who was next to them, closed his eyes and explained that the people from the Eastern Military District were clumsy with great combat power, but without skills, who were useless, except for the first one, Sun Heyu, who was a bit decent. Lin Wanwen put her fist on her chest and remained silent in thought. Snowy, who was next to her, corrected Dong Shengyi and told him that his name was Sun Hengyu. While his eyes were shining, he began to look at his hand with an angry look and told her that it didn't matter since someone who couldn't withstand even 3 of his blows didn't deserve to be remembered by their name. After saying this, he began to approach them, and seeing that Lin Wanwan had not mentioned it, he revealed to her that they had come to the Eastern Military District to prepare for exploring the underground caverns. He approached Snowy, grabbed her by the shoulders with both hands, started looking into her eyes, and with a serious look told her that they needed her help as a master of psychic thoughts. With a suspicious look, she began to look at Lin Wanwan and thought that this was not good at all. She began to remember her mother. The name Lin Wanwan was quite common, but her mother's name was very famous in the Dragon Kingdom. Her mother was known as Martial Saint Lin Zhengyu. Snowy, who had crossed arms, closed her eyes and asked them which underground cave they were going to go to and how many layers they planned to explore. Dong Shengi started staring at her and with a serene look revealed that they were going to go to the triple S level labyrinth, and the further down, the better, since higher level beast gene specimens were more valuable. He approached her and with a serious look asked her not to underestimate Wanwan's research. He began to imagine himself as a martial saint, and with a smile told her that if she succeeded, then she could revolutionize the landscape of martial arts worldwide, and this could be his opportunity to become a martial saint. After saying this, he turned his head towards Wanwan and with a smile told Snowy that maybe her time would come too. She started looking at Wanwan with an uncertain look and remained silent. Wanwan closed her eyes and with a cheerful smile asked her if she was joking. Snowy grabbed the necklace that Lu Sheng had given her with her hand and started looking at the ground. She opened her mouth and agreed to go with them. She tightly held Lu Sheng's necklace and with a determined look told them that as long as they promised one thing, she would help them. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.